Well, you're still joining us for this interesting conversation we're having in observing the online shopping trends here with this Broll Property Group podcast that is still coming to you from the Broll Property headquarters here in Sandton. A reminder of the hashtag to use is hashtag progressive property people to be a part of this conversation. Now, Elaine and Malcolm, we really painted a phenomenal picture around online shopping trends in South Africa, how it's moving on to omni-channel, and also highlighting how traditional bricks and mortar stores have had to find their way around the online environment and make it cohesive for what we've described as very complex customers. But one company that has actually transitioned in the opposite direction and found phenomenal success, which has left many of us flabbergasted, is YuppieChef. Now, they've moved from clicks to bricks, which is how it's described within the Broll online report, in terms of moving from being an online store, transitioning into a bricks and mortar company. Andrew Smith, the CEO of YuppieChef, joins us now. Andrew, great to have you with us. You're from the Republic of Cape Town, but you're joining us through the wonders of technology. And I think when many of us think about YuppieChef as a brand and as a company, it's certainly managed to find phenomenal success in terms of its move and transition into bricks and mortar. I'm reminded of a presentation that you had at the South African Council of Shopping Centres conference in 2019, where you described the growth in revenue in comparison to your bricks and mortar stores, where I believe significant targets were met within a month versus what we might have seen within the years of your existence as an online store. Give us some insight into that and paint a broader picture as to how this actually motivated your move from clicks to bricks and the bricks and mortar environment.
Yeah, well, thank you for the opportunity. I think that I can sometimes be provocative in the way that I present the numbers and the figures, because it seems like the whole world is saying that the reverse is true, that you have to go online and that's where the future is and that's where all the growth is. And I think that misses some of the reality of what it actually means to sell online versus what it means to sell in physical retail, particularly in South Africa. So, we started selling online in YuppieChef in 2006, so that's nearly 14 years ago. And it was a very slow start. It was Shane and I from my lounge, and nobody had heard of us. And when you launch something online, the first sale was to Shane's dad, because that's how things get off the ground. Nobody knows that you exist. Whereas, when we open a physical store, particularly in a location like the waterfront, you immediately from day one just benefit from thousands of people who walk past, and also you benefit from a credibility. If you a physical store where I can see that they're real, I have a sense that if something goes wrong, I'll be able to bring it back tomorrow and get a refund or shout at the manager. There's many aspects of physical retail which I think is too easy to brush all aside and say, people don't want to shop online because they like to touch and feel something. I mean, that is an element of it, but I think it's part of a much bigger picture of just how difficult it is to convince a customer to make a decision based on a picture they see on the screen, to add it to their cart, to navigate the complexity of payment and trying to figure out how they're going to receive the delivery for this item. Online shopping is really difficult. So YuppieChef has achieved a lot of success online and built a brand that is relatively well known throughout the country, and we have a large range and we do quite well. But I think we realized what we were missing out on by so doggedly sticking to online. I would meet someone and say, what do you do? And I say, I'm part of YuppieChef. And I say, oh, that's wonderful. I love YuppieChef. You guys have got such amazing products, and I get your newsletter. Oh, it's wonderful. I say, what have you bought from us? Oh, no, I've never shopped with you.
Jeez.
And that conversion is actually really, really difficult. And, it made me think about the digital transformation that that various industries go through. And if you think about banking, once you've experienced online banking or mobile banking, you never want to set foot in a banking branch again. It's just such an obviously better experience on every account. Once you've experienced booking your own flight online, you never want to set foot in a travel agent again and sit opposite someone and try and figure out just particularly a domestic flight. Or, once you've sent an email, the idea of handwriting a letter and putting it in an envelope and buying a stamp and dropping it off and then hoping it gets there, you never want to do that again. But if you think about e-commerce, once you've bought for the first time online, I still go to the shops. I went to the shops this week.
Yeah.
And so it's not the same type of digital transformation that I think we've seen in various other categories. And the difference is that it needs to work together with the physical experience rather than being a complete replacement of the physical experience.
There's something important that you alluded to earlier, and that's credibility, right? Which enabled the foot traffic coming into your bricks and mortar stores. And it also ties in with data, which Malcolm mentioned earlier on in terms of the collection of information that you've driven from online sales. It almost seems as though your existence for more than a decade on an online platform facilitated your understanding of your customer in order to make your transition into a bricks and mortar store so much easier. How is it that online facilitated the credibility as well as the quality of the data provided in order to understand who your customer is and what they want?
Yeah, I think that the very nature of an online transaction means that customers are a lot more comfortable giving more information to the retailer. If I walk into a normal store and I pick up a packet of chips and I hand over my 10 Rand note, and the shop says, but you need to tell me where you live and how do we get hold of you and what's your name? I mean, whoa, you don't need any of that from me. Where I think it's very obvious online that customers feel, well, it's of course I have to give you all of that information. And it's just an inherently more trackable medium to know what people have looked for and what they've searched for and what they ended up buying. So, for us, we've had background obviously in technology and building technology systems, and that became quite a natural progression into the physical world, a much more understanding of data. Credibility is an interesting one, and I think that probably comes a little bit more from how difficult it is to convince someone that you are trustworthy in an online environment. That to actually have someone be willing to make this transaction with an entity that they don't know. There's no opportunity to mess up. We're having to win that customer over. They don't necessarily trust shopping online. They've never heard of YuppieChef before. And so all of what we do and the experience that we create, if we mess that up in any way by having a bad delivery or by sending the wrong product or by making a mistake with the payment, we know we're going to lose that customer forever. And so I think that out of a sense of survival over the last 10 years, we focus on customer experience, we focus on credibility and trustworthiness that I think has translated quite well as we've now selling through physical channels.
Yeah, but I also think, so for me, it's about that conversion rate is critical. So to convert, I need to love a brand. To convert, I need to want to do something. And I think the physical helps that element just all pull together. Andrew's got a great example in his business where I think great brand out there. I go online, but did I convert? No, I didn't convert. I looked at it. But then you go into the shop and they're so phenomenal that it's a proper retail experience. It's an experience that converts to sales. And I think and it builds loyalty. Customers are complex human beings. They want to belong. They want to actually provide that loyalty of brand, loyalty of I'm a Mr. Price shopper, or I'm a YuppieChef shopper, or I'm a Pick and Pay shopper. People like that because it's who they are. It forms the complexity of the human being. Yeah. And I think that's the transition between the omni-channels is one can't operate in isolation of the other, I don't believe.
Exactly.
Yeah. I agree.
Elaine, would you like to add? Andrew, I must give you some insight. I was telling Elaine and Malcolm that having visited your store in Cape Town, I actually wanted to become a housewife, just based on the experience as well as the variety of products that were present there. So that clearly tells you something about the sense of experience, right? Adding to what Malcolm has mentioned in terms of building up that trust, converting, making conversions into additional sales and building up that customer loyalty. So how is it then that you find a balance in terms of maintaining that customer experience, not only online, but also in store to make someone like me want to become a housewife?
Yeah. Well, I think that saying earlier how we've really had to work hard to convince people why they should purchase this particular product or why they should, shop with us. And so that just became a natural. I think we didn't take for granted that when someone walked into the store, they would just automatically want to buy what we had. And so, potentially a level of training of the team and across the different products. We've really tried to be specialists in the one category that we're at. I think that we have been really focused on attention to detail online, and then that did translate through into physical stores as well. But there are a couple of other advantages that we had. The one is that online there is unlimited shelf space, so we were able to grow our range a lot bigger than we would if we were limited to stores. And because we can service the whole country from a single warehouse. We could buy a list of products and have one of them on hand and sell it anywhere. So our range is a whole lot bigger than what you see in any of our physical stores. And so when we choose what to put into a store, we're selecting from a range that's probably 10 times as big as what you see. And so I think we've really been able to curate in our stores what we know are really good products that are going to appeal to our customers, but we can then also customize them. Potentially a shopper in Cape Town is going to want something slightly different than a shopper in Joburg, and because we're selecting out of a much bigger range, I think that it has helped us as well to create really good store experiences.
But that's also the data that you've got, I think, helps a lot. But the one thing I wanted to ask you is the product offering, because you've got a very unique and specialized product offering, in your opinion, is that the easier transition from online to physical? Because if I think of a clothing or apparel store, I think they might have a more difficult journey in that transition if they did it that way. So,
I think it's such a good point that you raised, that I think we've got to be so careful of making generalizations across retail. And retail includes engagement rings and beds and cars and loaves of bread. And sometimes we can put them all under an umbrella thing and create generalizations to say this works online or this works in the stores. And there are definitely differences. Our category, which is kitchen, it definitely helped us get online in the first place, because customers buy brands, and they buy brands that they can't always get everywhere else. So even before someone trusted YuppieChef, they probably trusted Le Creuset or KitchenAid stuff because they've seen them everywhere and they know what they're going to get. Whereas that's a little bit tricky in some other categories that they don't necessarily have brands that are as well known in that sense. So there's also a sense of our category is very diverse. There's a lot that you can have if you think about everything that's in your kitchen, everything that's in each of the drawers and in the cupboards, and how much more you probably still want to buy. So there's an opportunity where e-commerce works in that long tail of being able to provide people with range. So there's definitely elements that work for us that I'm cautious to say, everyone should just do exactly what YuppieChef did. That's not the case.
Okay.
We have really benefited from gifting is a big part of our business. Wedding registries are a big part of our business. And those things have really suited online well. And that's a similar thing when we go into stores now to think about, what is particularly about our category, and not necessarily just copy what everyone else has done from an omnichannel or physical or an e-commerce point of view.
Andrew, when you were in the click sphere, you understood your consumers, because you've got all the information, where they live, what they want, what their preferences are. Do you find now that you went to the brick aspect of retail that you've lost that link with your consumers?
And maybe can I say, is it the same consumer coming to your store? So that would be, for me, interesting. Did you lose them, or are they still online? Have they now converted to shopaholics? Love your brand. Here I come.
Well, just a couple of things. I think that because generally customers shopping with us, it is a bigger basket size. It's something that they care about. They want a relationship with us for a while, and so they're quite comfortable giving us their details in their store. It's not a quick in and out type of transaction, and so the majority of customers are happy to give us their email address so that their purchase is linked to their overall account, and if they need to come and do a return and something in the future, it's all linked to their account. So I think we are fortunate in that way, and so we're able to link a lot of store transactions to a customer's bigger picture with us. And what that so to answer what Elaine's question there, we do still have quite a good sense of who our customers are, and what we've lost in hard data point of view, we've gained in a human point of view. We can speak to all of our sales assistants in the store and say, tell us more about who our customer is and how they make decisions, which is very hard online. You can see where someone clicks online, but you can't really follow always their thought process or what they were struggling with or what was confusing. So I think we've lost a little bit in the stores, and we've gained a whole bunch of qualitative data around our customers. Malcolm, to answer your question about I suppose that the cannibalization is the crude version of what you're asking. Is how much is stores cannibalize online sales? Because I think that's a fear for a lot of traditional physical retailers, is how much is online going to cannibalize their physical sales. It works in both ways. And we've definitely seen that. We've seen customers who've never shopped with us before and are now shopping for the first time in our stores. And in fact, they'd never even heard of us before, so that's great. You see customers who made their first online purchase with us 10 years ago and are now shopping in one of our stores. And the question there is, would they have made that purchase? Would they have shopped online again, but there was a convenience or a speed, or whether they happened to be in the center and made that purchase online? That's something we haven't done enough digging into to understand. But we like to think that it's definitely pushing customers in both directions, and just the credibility of walking past a store, one of our stores, and then seeing an online ad or reading our newsletter and thinking, actually, I've never shopped online before, but I'm comfortable now because I know that YuppieChef is an entity that I've seen. That's impossible for us to track because we don't know who's walked past the store. But we do have a sense that that stores are helping online, and online is helping the stores, and hopefully together it is growing.
A question that I want to throw to all of you, really, and this pulls up on an example that you were alluding to, Elaine, but some of the learnings that need to be implemented here for pop-up stores. It's been a growing trend across many malls in South Africa, speaking again to the experience that customers actually want. But this experience regarding omni-channel and the balance around customer centricity, availability of goods and services, what should we be learning here for pop-up stores in terms of building sustainability and easier access to customers?
You know what? I think YuppieChef is a good example. You get a smaller person that sells online. They can use the YuppieChef example, but maybe they can't start with a shop in the V&A waterfront from the beginning, but they can start with a little pop-up store in a smaller center to see whether it's going to work. Okay, and how it's going to integrate with their online shopping, and then from there on, they can expand into bigger store space. So I think the pop-up concept is a very good concept. I think it gives people a foot in the door, and I think you see a lot of smaller retailers that started as pop-up stores that is now a full-fledged shop. So pop-up stores.
I think it's an interesting market. So we know there's retail vacancies sitting around. We know there are people only operating online. So I think the opportunity of space being available and reaching out to someone who's only operating online and say, man, dare a little bit, come and try this, see if it works, without much risk. That's the opportunity as well. So I think more and more that is happening. I think there's a lot of reaching out at the moment, and it's probably an exciting phase for a lot of the online guys, as well as for the bricks and mortar guys, because we need more depth of retailers. We all know that we need, economical reform and growth in our economy, sure. But I think we're in a phase where we need to dare, we need to excite ourselves, and we need to stay motivated in retail, because shoppers need to feel that experience. That not online can be great, but I think there's a very relevant place for people to experience retail and the environment of retail as well.
And also for young entrepreneurs that's starting out in this, from an online platform to a physical store. It's not going to lock them into a 3-year contract, lease agreement. It can be a quick in and out. If it doesn't work, okay, let's go back to the drawing board. You're not sitting in a 3-year lease or a 5-year lease. You sit in a short-term lease. So I think it's a very good concept for entrepreneurs.
Flexibility. Andrew, your thoughts and suggestions? I'm sure lots of individuals have been asking you questions in terms of what they can learn, new strategies that they can implement.
I think that pop-up stores are probably category specific to an extent. Someone who's buying a 5,000 Rand knife block set to a 10,000 Rand coffee machine, and then are you going to be here next week if something goes wrong with it? Whereas, a pop-up store selling socks or some other product which is, a little bit more transient. So, I think that from we as a company had been selling online for many years, and some of the people who worked for our business were had some background in other retailers. But it was a big step signing that first lease and putting down and even understanding everything that was involved and what we were committing to. And I think that we were relatively established. We had access to some legal advice and some people in our business who knew what was going on. And even for us, it was a huge step. So I kind of picture someone else who's wanting to get into this physical retail thing, and a pop-up would be a pop-up store lease would be less onerous in that sense. But I also think that the industry, retailers and landlords have got to kind of get together and figure out if we want a new wave of tenants in our malls in particular, because that is the way that South African retail works. How can we actually support that? What kind of support services can we do? Because I think too often you've got two people sitting on opposite sides of the table feeling like they're fighting for themselves as opposed to working together to overcome what's quite a big hurdle. And we know that there's a lot of space that's becoming available in malls. And so there's an opportunity now to say, as a collective industry, and that's where something like the South African Council of Shopping Centres, which does represent landlords and tenants, to say what can we do together to help some people get over that really what is quite a big hurdle in order to get into physical space.
Yeah, I can imagine for all of you here on the table and are having sleepless nights, especially if you take a look at the weak economic environment. We've just come out of the festive season, which was not very festive in terms of retail sales. Also understanding the economic climate that we're in, expectations of a downgrade, markets in decline, coronavirus. I can go on and on in terms of the negativity, right, which has impacted on consumer sales. But what does that spell then for the future of online, of bricks and mortar sales, as well as this omni-channel environment that we're moving into? So 2020, what are your expectations as we draw concluding remarks in terms of how retailers and shopping centers need to continue to drive an omni-channel experience for their customers? Let's start with you, Andrew. Then we'll come back this side to get some feedback from Elaine and Malcolm.
Yeah, I think that winning this year in 2020 will be surviving. I think if we make it through, particularly with this virus, as we see now, Italy's just shut down all retail except for grocery and medicine, and I don't know, I can't even begin to think what that would do to many retailers here in South Africa if we had a period where it was closed. How many retailers that were already struggling and already in a tough position are going to be able to survive paying rentals or paying their staff if their stores are closed for a number of weeks or however long it might be. And we might have that in store. So this year, I think if we can get it through, if all of us can get through to the end of the year and still be in the game, and then that's a win. We mustn't pretend like there aren't going to be some really difficult problems. I think with online, we've got to realize that we're not creating any new turnover, really, as an entire industry. It's not suddenly like if online is growing at 20% or whatever percent it might be, that is coming from somewhere else, because we know that overall retail spend in South Africa is not growing at that rate. And so, unfortunately, it is a little bit of a zero-sum game, and it is a bit of a kind of taking from one channel and instead of adding to it. And so as retailers and I suppose as landlords to be realistic about that and be realistic about what online can do, and not get left behind, but not think that this is going to solve all of our problems, because we didn't magically create a bigger economy when we opened up online stores.
No, I totally agree with Andrew there. It's going to be basically a survival.
Yeah.
From a research point of view, it's very exciting because every day is something different happens. I follow the international markets as well. It's frightful the amount of stores that close. And it is not babies, it's Macy's, Debenhams is in trouble. It's big stores. And to see how this is going to influence the smaller, the ones that's on the level of closing down.
Yeah.
If they can survive that, they can survive anything. And then once again it's not going to be focusing on brick and mortar or online shopping. It's going to be how you integrate it. And that's going to be the survival.
Sure.
Yeah, I think we all need to take a deep, deep breath.
Are you worried about rentals? That's what I should be asking you, Malcolm.
Look, I think economic reality is going to prevail, and that is survival, as Andrew said. But I think the reality is a rebasing, rechecking of where we are, more partnerships, working together, making sure we all get to the other side of this journey, because it is a tough journey. It's a tough time for our country. It's a tough time for the retailers. Who expected Corona? No one. So, you that on top of, and you lay that on top of a economy that is not performing, retail sales that are static. You have an interesting dynamic, escalated rentals, operating costs that are increasing. So a consumer that a household's possibly got one person retrenched with. It's an extremely dynamic bag of elements of things that are moving all the time. And I think the only thing we can do is, in times like this, people move closer together to survive. And I think that's what it is. It's about working together, working cleverly, working smarter, and actually having the long-term goal of making sure that we have a great retail environment when we're done through the cycle, because this too will pass.
Indeed, it will.
I think this is a perfect time for people that these opportunities. I believe there's a lot of opportunities outside there. You look at the China factories that's closed. Is that creating an opportunity? Yeah. I think this is the time for the young entrepreneurs to say, okay, this is our time to spark.
Look, spark and cast the light and power to support manufacturing and online sales.
That's right.
And bricks and see, it's all interlinked.
Exactly.
Sorry, I don't want to say it, provided your laptop is charged.
An inside joke there for everyone here at the table. But thank you so much to all three of you for sharing some of the knowledge that you have with us in terms of understanding the online retail environment. And I guess one thing that's certainly been made very clear is that it's not about one or the other, but really incorporating both in terms of an omni-channel that speaks to customer centricity, ensuring that you meet the customer's needs, retailers being agile and flexible enough as well to respond to the changing dynamics, and most importantly, also ensuring that there's a sense of unity within the sector at large. Thank you so much to Malcolm Horne, the Group CEO of Broll Property Group.
Gugu.
Not forgetting Elaine as well, Elaine Wilson, who is the Director of Property Intel at Broll Property Group, and of course, Andrew Smith, the CEO of YuppieChef. Hopefully we'll be getting a nice gift. No one's getting married, but maybe, just in support of the economy there, Andrew,
Thanks,
pulling your
Andrew.
leg. Thank you so much. And of course, you for watching and listening online to this first episode of Broll Property Group podcast series. We will continue sharing amazing insight with you in terms of the developments in South Africa's retail environment. Again, use the hashtag #ProgressivePropertyPeople. Until next time, have a wonderful day.